After months of searching, I finally found my first job at a Canadian department store. Do I have to make up a fake name for them? Nobody outside of Canada will know what I'm talking about. Whatever, let's call them Canadian, Wheel. Nailed it. My family was pretty excited for me because one of my aunts worked for Canadian Wheel, and my mom worked for a company that distributed to Canadian Wheel. I guess you could say I was in the family business. I got called in for an interview, which really wasn't an interview. It was more like, hey, can you work these hours? Yep. Can you do these things? Yep. Can you sign this contract? Yep. Great, we officially own you now. Yep. I did mention one other thing to him, however. You see, I had this interview on a Friday night, and my brother's 13th birthday party was the next weekend. We were driving down to Niagara Falls with a couple of his friends to spend the whole weekend at this cool indoor water park. It had a wave pool and water slides and one of those bucket things. You know the bucket things. And the whole place was wilderness themed. For a kid, it was pretty much the coolest place in the universe. Hell, I was 16 and I was still bouncing off the walls excited for it. I told the manager that I couldn't work that weekend, and he said it was alright. He said to come in tomorrow for training. Tomorrow was Saturday, which was perfect because he sends out the schedule Saturday night so I could do the training and then know right away when I'd be working. Fast forward to my first day, and they really didn't do much to train me. They just kind of showed me around, taught me how to use the computer system, gave me some quick safety training, and threw me out on the sales floor. I mean, literally, the wording they used was, "We're throwing you to the dogs now. Good luck." I'm not exaggerating here. The biggest question I had is, how do you do customer service? Nobody ever taught me how. I mean, it's pretty common sense that you shouldn't climb the shelves with office supplies shoved in every orifice screaming, "Praise be to Walmart! All who shop in this inferior store shall pay recompense to our American billionaire overlords." But beyond that, man, I was totally lost. The whole time I was there, the managers kept praising this one girl. They were like, "Oh, we've had such a hard time keeping employees, but she's been great. Be like her." And in that first shift, they wanted me to shadow her so I could absorb her competence. Except she wasn't that great an employee at all. She was like, "Yeah, we're not supposed to have our phones out on the sales floor. We can get in a lot of trouble for it. Here's how to not get caught." Or, "We're supposed to keep all the items neat and tidy, but if you just wander around adjusting only the ones in front, nobody will notice." Or, "Come on, let's hide in the back room for a while so we don't have to deal with customers." This is your perfect employee? Why was it so hard to get a job if someone can get away with that? So that night, the manager emails me the schedule for the week, and I see he scheduled me for Saturday. The Saturday where I'll be in Niagara Falls having cool water fun. I reply like, "Hey, I can't come in on Saturday. As I mentioned in the interview, I'll be in Niagara Falls that weekend. Sorry for any confusion." He emails back, "Okay, sorry, I'll get someone else to cover that shift." Well, I had 2 other shifts that week, and I was honestly still just as lost. But finally the weekend came, and we went down to Niagara Falls. It was the stuff of dreams, but you had to pay for the hotel Wi-Fi, and my mom was like, "You don't need internet. You've got a whole water park." So I just went without it for the weekend. We got home late, and I checked my schedule for that week. Turns out he had scheduled me for Sunday. Today. Well, it was too late to call and ask about it, so I just went into work on Monday like normal. Then the manager pulled me into a back room and fired me. Huh? What? But I told you I'd be away this weekend. I had no internet. How would I have known about the shift yesterday? It's company policy that if you miss 2 shifts in a row, you're out. Sorry, there's nothing I can do. I was stunned. I expected to get yelled at, but not this. Okay, well, is there anything I could have done better? So I know for future jobs? It was his turn to be unsure how to react. Finally, he just says, you were trying hard to learn." So I packed up my stuff, trying not to cry in front of the other employees, and had to call my mom to explain, which was excruciating. My mom picked me up, and I explained what happened. He hated hiring. What? He hires a bunch of people at once and fires them as soon as they make a mistake. He doesn't want to put in the effort to screen for really good employees. Thing is, when you hire teenagers, they will make mistakes. That's why he really liked that one girl. She wasn't a good employee, she was just good at hiding her mistakes. And that's also why he couldn't give you a real answer on what you could have done better. Anyone who really values good employees would love to hear that question. I struggled over this situation for a long time. On the one hand, I felt like I could have done more to make sure he knew I wouldn't be there that weekend. Managers' memories aren't perfect. But I also thought it was an understandable mistake for someone in their first job to make, and that it was way too harsh to fire me over that. Well, either way, that experience turned me off to both having a job and Canadian Wheel. It was a year before I got another job, and I haven't been to a Canadian Wheel since.